Okay, what is somebody going to do? Well, they already had the job once. So I have a feeling that they're probably going to do the same policies that got the border under control the first time. And they're going to immediately re-implement those policies that got the border under control.
You know what? Before the elections, I might have, even when I wasn't going to vote for Trump, I might have said to Tim, like, no, I think he's kind of right. But clearly I didn't vote for Trump for a reason, because I didn't believe that he was going to be the same president that he was this first term. And I'm being proven right every day. Some people will say that he is. You know, that's your choice to believe that. That's fine. But Tim Miller is demolishing Dan Crenshaw, as he should, because, you know, it all turned out to be a farce. At the end of the day, this is not the same guy. Some people are waking up to it, and, you know, some people haven't yet, but they will. And some people take it personal. Oh, my gosh, you know, you're against Trump. People are always against Trump. No, man, I'm for America. Therefore, I must call out what's going on with this administration. Let's go ahead and get into it.
How is that an emotional
You're
argument?
making an emotional argument.
That's an objective argument based on history. That's based on history.
You're saying I have a feeling. This is like saying, all right, man, I got hammered at the bar, and I drove 90 miles an hour down the highway, and I spun out, and we circled around, and I landed straight, and that means I should just get hammered and drive again, because last time we barely survived with only a little insurrection. We had a mild insurrection. Look, Dan, character matters. You know that.
I'll help you out.
Dan, you wrote a whole book about this.
Okay?
Character matters. It does. In a leader, character matters. You cannot lie about people. You cannot advance racist lies, and you cannot tell people that our elections are fraudulent when they're real. You cannot tell people that they're eating pets, that the government doesn't care about you, that the country's going to end. All of these lies that he tells, that affects the country, man.
So your argument is that you do not like his character. Right? You've made that very clear. But again,
it's objective point about his character, about these lies. It's not about me.
That's fine, but then another objective point would be what our choice is in this election, and the choice is not a question, a yes or no question on whether you think Trump has a perfect character. That's not the question on the ballot. The question on the ballot is about who will do a better job running the country for the next 4 years. And this is a really interesting case where we actually have 4 years from each candidate, where we know exactly what their policies are going to be and what their outcomes are going to be. And on every metric, Trump wins on those metrics. You may still not like his character, and I'm not going to try and convince you to. But on the metrics, he wins on every single one.
That's not right, though.
Name one where he doesn't.
Right. The metrics only count for him if you stop the metrics before COVID happens, because COVID wasn't his fault. I actually agree with this. I don't blame Trump for COVID, but you can't say that all of the job loss that happened, the huge spike in crime that happened in 2020 while Trump was president, you cannot say that that was not his fault because of COVID. But then everything that happened in 2021 the COVID had nothing to do with any of that. That's all Biden's policies. Look, we had this huge disruption that happened under Trump. And if you actually just look at the metrics,
of course I can.
You want to say metrics. If you look at just the metrics of crime and jobs, it's better under Biden. Sorry, that's just facts.
I don't technically believe in metrics. I understand what he's saying when it comes to the hypocrisy, because now that I'm out of it, I can see it clearly. There's always a hypocrisy of like, you know, the one that I love right now is, you know, the stocks are doing fine, so you should be fine. Don't worry about tariffs. When Democrats were saying the stocks are doing fine, so the economy is good. And at that time, Republicans were saying, no, the stocks don't matter. Like, the people are not doing good. They know what they feel. You can't tell people to shut up and look at the stocks. And it's just so funny now that, you know, now all of a sudden the stocks are good, or you have people even like Benny Johnson, who's like, you know, losing money costs nothing. And I don't know how somebody, I mean, if you want to talk about the most reaching sentence to make, just to provide coverage. So I can understand the point that Tim is making about, you know, the double standards when it comes to Trump.
That was debunked in the last debate that they had on this,
let me switch
on the crime issue. And look, and you know this very well. Like, you know that across the country, crime is spiking because left-wing district attorneys and left-wing judges are letting criminals out on $1 bonds, and they go out and murder. Okay, what do you mean crime is going down? That was debunked. That was a claim that was made by CBS during the election. And yeah, let's talk about 2020. Was that a bunch of Republicans out there causing $2 billion in damage? Was that a bunch of Republican rioters?
No, but it wasn't a bunch of
Republican
Biden
cities?
supporters.
No, of course not.
Well, I thought you liked it.
Was Trump trying?
It was a bunch of Biden supporters. Like, let's not do. Come on, Tim. See, this is what I mean about people. Like, come on, don't do them. Like when he says that, be like, all you gotta say is like, all right, boom, I got you on that. Like, you're right. Just say, come on now, let's. We cannot do it this way. Because it was not Trump supporters out there writing. Maybe it wasn't, or I would be like, I don't think they were voters, period. That's what I was saying. Like, I just think they were anarchists and they didn't want to vote at all. They were Trump voters and then they weren't Biden. And then just say, at least say that.
Was Trump asking governors to put the National Guard in to stop it? Yes, of course he was. All right. Was governors like Tim Walz preventing that from happening and allowing Minneapolis to be burned down? Of course he was.
Why didn't he do that in D.C.? Look, again, I agree. The rioting was bad during 2020. The people that were rioting weren't waving Kamala Harris flags. Okay, they were Antifa. They were saying they were the same people that say Genocide Joe. This is not the Democratic establishment. There were Trump flags over the Capitol as cops were getting attacked. Trump flags over the Capitol as cops were getting attacked. That was Donald Trump's fault.
Okay.
He said
The thing is, Dan Crenshaw doesn't know how to really argue that point because Dan Crenshaw is a staunch establishment, Republican. So his thing was like, yeah, there were a bunch of deplorables out there. Like, that's his thing. Me, I would be like, well, I mean, Trump was giving his speech when it happened. He did ask the mayor and Nancy Pelosi for the National Guard to come out just to be on the safe side, and they said no. So what do you want him to do?
Listen,
You refused to
hang on. We've already done January 6th.
With that.
I want to turn chaps to foreign policy. Dan,
I love that.
With your military record, I'd be interested in what you feel about this. There are obviously going to be three big issues, it seems to me, for the incoming president, whoever that is. One, the Russia-Ukraine war. Secondly, the Israel war with Hamas, now Hezbollah, and potentially a war directly with Iran. Who would be, obviously, I know that you would say Trump, but from a military perspective, who do you think the members of the American armed forces would feel more comfortable about having at the helm, given these three, and of course the ongoing threat of China, given these big geopolitical issues that are raging right now?
Yeah, you predicted what I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it. And I know that based on the troops' reactions to Trump himself. I'm still in very close touch with my own friends, most of which are still active.
Yeah, he's going to say Trump. So anyway, you know what I mean? Like, that's cool. But the problem is, and I'm not going to understand why. Like, come on, that's an easy answer. The problem is not just Trump making the decisions, though. At least if we had a sovereign nation, we know that, maybe things would be better. We wouldn't be in this position if we had a sovereign nation. I'll tell you that. So, here we are. And it's funny he says China. That's these tariffs, right? It is an escalation towards China. Now, I don't think there's a kinetic war that's going to happen anytime soon, but tariffs are just an escalation to China because of that Panama Canal. And I say it all the time. I'll see you guys at the next one.